I was sitting on the crinkling paper sheet, bare legs dangling over the edge of the exam table, when Dr. Sloan looked at me over her glasses and said 4 words that cracked something inside me. "You've left it late." I blinked. Late for what? She didn't elaborate, just kept typing, like this was routine. "Left it late for what?" I finally asked. She turned toward me, clinical, cold, certain, for motherhood. "Your fertility window is closing. If you want a baby, you should consider IVF immediately. Don't waste time. You're almost 30. Almost 30. Like it was a disease. I was 29 years old, not 39, not 49, 29. My name is Emily Lawson, and this is the story of how one doctor's words nearly destroyed my life, because I believed her, every syllable. She printed the IVF brochure like she was handing me a parking ticket, dropped it into my lap, and moved on to the next patient. No warmth, no conversation, no humanity. I walked out holding that paper like it was a diagnosis. Infertile, old, defective. I hadn't heard those words, but I felt them. The waiting room looked different on the way out. Every woman suddenly looked younger than me, fresher. Earlier in the race, I had apparently already lost. The elevator doors closed, and only then did I realize I'd been holding my breath. It escaped in a sharp shiver, a sound too small to be called a sob, but too painful to ignore. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just drove home in silence, brochure on the passenger seat, staring at the number printed at the bottom. 12,450 pounds per cycle, not including medication. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Late. Too late. Almost 30. Ben was cooking when I walked in. Tomatoes and garlic in a pan. Our favorite Wednesday night pasta ritual. He turned, smiling, and the smile disappeared the second he saw my face. What happened? I opened my mouth. Nothing came out, so I just handed him the brochure. He read the first line, looked at me. IVF? I nodded. She said my fertility window is closing. If we wait too long, it might be too late. Ben blinked, then frowned. Wait, what? You're 29. I know. That makes no sense. I know. So, why would she? I sat down at the kitchen table, and for the first time, I cried. Not polite crying, not cinematic movie tears. The ugly kind. Shoulders shaking, breath stuttering, face buried in my hands. Ben knelt beside me. Hey, look at me. I couldn't. What exactly did she say? I forced the words out. She said I've left it late. She told me not to waste time. She said I should start IVF immediately, or accept that I might never have a baby. Silence. Then Ben let out a short, confused laugh. But that's insane. You're healthy. You're young. A beat. Emily, you run half marathons. I did, or I used to. I felt suddenly ancient. That night, when Ben fell asleep beside me, I lay awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling. My period tracker app open. Fertility graphs, age charts, egg reserve statistics. Words like geriatric pregnancy glowing in blue light. Somewhere between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m., I typed into Google, "Am I too old to get pregnant at 29?" I didn't know it then, but that question was the beginning of the spiral. The first stone kicked loose from a cliff I would spend months tumbling down. And all because one doctor told me I was late, before I even knew the race had started. The search results were chaos. One article said most women my age conceived within a year. Another warned that fertility drops sharply after 28. A forum post called 29 borderline geriatric. Another woman wrote that her doctor told her to hurry up before you dry up. I scrolled and scrolled, collecting every horrible sentence and building a little shrine of panic in my head. I zoomed in on one graph that showed a red line dipping after 30. 30 wasn't a number anymore. It was a cliff. I clicked on a video of a specialist talking about age and eggs. I didn't even finish it. The tone alone, clinical, absolute, made my stomach twist. By 3 a.m., I had convinced myself of 3 things. 1. I was already behind. 2. My body was quietly betraying me. 3. If I didn't do exactly what Dr. Sloan said, I would wake up one day, and it would simply be too late. Ben slept through all of it, his breathing slow and steady beside me. The kind of peace you only have when no one has told you your time is running out. I turned the brightness down on my phone so the blue light wouldn't wake him, and whispered to be normal to myself. I still went to work, I still answered emails, I still smiled at people in the hallway, but inside, something had cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly enough that no one else could hear it but me. It started with one late-night Google search, then 20. Then I was falling into a tunnel of articles, opinion pieces, charts, fertility forums, IVF statistics, terrifying Reddit threads written by usernames like eggs at 26 and too old at 29. Every graph showed the same thing, a line going down, a cliff, a drop. And every caption seemed to scream, "You waited too long." My 30th birthday was exactly 84 days away. That number lived in my head like a countdown clock. 84 days left to be young. 84 days left before the decline. 84 days before, according to one article, your chances of conceiving begin to collapse. I stopped seeing a birthday. I started seeing an expiry date printed on my body. Ben didn't understand at first. He brought me tea. He sat beside me on the sofa. He said things like, "Lots of women have babies at 35. You're literally 29. But every reassurance sounded like a lie, because my doctor had said otherwise. Doctors don't exaggerate, I thought. Doctors know things. Doctors say the truth aloud when everyone else is too polite to say it. So when she looked at me over her glasses and said, "You've left it late," it didn't feel like an opinion. It felt like a diagnosis. I began measuring everything by fertility. Every passing week, every hour of sleep, every supplement I didn't take, every wedding invitation from someone younger than me, every pregnancy announcement that exploded across Instagram like fireworks. "I'm so happy for you," I wrote under one photo. Then I closed the app and stared at my own reflection in the black phone screen. I did not look happy. I looked expired. My mother called one evening. She meant nothing by it. That's the violence of mothers. Sometimes the wound is accidental. "I had 3 children by 29, she said proudly. 10 words. I didn't bleed. I just folded inward like paper. One night, Ben suggested we watch a movie. I sat beside him, but my mind was in a fertility clinic. I was imagining eggs in petri dishes, embryos under microscopes, needles extracting the future before it disappeared. He reached for my hand. I didn't pull away. I simply didn't move. A still life of a woman disappearing from her own life. The clinic brochure lived on my nightstand, not hidden, not buried, just resting there, like a warning notice. IVF success rates by age. Under 30, high. Over 30, lower. Over 35, sharply lower. I stared at the first line again. Under 30. That was me, but only for 12 more weeks. One afternoon, I found myself standing in the bathroom, staring at my reflection. Not checking makeup, not adjusting hair, just staring, trying to see what had changed. Was I older now? Was something inside me quietly dying? Was this how infertility began? Not with a symptom, but a sentence. You've left it late. I called the clinic 3 days later. I sounded calm, like someone booking a dentist appointment. I'd like to schedule IVF, I said. The receptionist asked if I had questions. I didn't, not because I understood, but because I was already certain it was my only chance. I didn't tell Ben until dinner. He didn't shout. He didn't argue. He just stared at me like I was moving further and further away on a boat he couldn't reach. We haven't even tried naturally, he said. I don't want to waste time, I whispered, and I meant it. Time was the enemy now. Every hour felt like sand slipping through my hands. That night I lay awake, eyes open in the dark, listening to the hum of the refrigerator like it was the sound of a clock ticking. I had no diagnosis, no proof of a problem, just a sentence from a doctor and a countdown in my head. And in that silence, a new belief formed, quiet and poisonous. I am already too late. I didn't know it yet, but that belief would control every choice I made for the next year. It would cost me money I hadn't earned yet. It would steal sleep. It would strain my marriage. It would erode pieces of my identity, one small crumble at a time. This wasn't just fear anymore. This was the beginning of obsession. And obsession is far harder to make me feel hopeful. People call it a miracle, a blessing of modern medicine, a chance to take control. But nothing about it felt like control. It felt like handing my body to strangers in white coats and hoping they could do what I apparently could not. The clinic smelled like disinfectant and nervousness. Women sat quietly, scrolling their phones like they were reading news, not medical instructions that might determine the rest of their lives. Ben sat beside me, pretending to read a magazine he wasn't turning pages in. We were still a couple, but already becoming two separate planets orbiting the same anxiety. The injections began the next morning. They told me it would be fine. Tiny needle, few seconds, no big deal. But every time the needle touched my skin, I felt it stab the sentence deeper into me. You've left it late. My stomach bruised purple. I wore high-waisted leggings so I didn't have to see the marks when I undressed. The scans were worse. Dim rooms, cold gel, numbers spoken in coded language. 6 follicles on the right, maybe 4 on the left. Not good, not bad, just a silent judgment. I learned to smile at not amazing. I learned to pretend not amazing still meant possible. Ben tried to be supportive. He drove me to appointments, bought me ginger tea, told me I was strong. But strength was not what I felt. I felt like a vessel being shaken to see if anything usable fell out. Sometimes he held my hand in the car. Sometimes I let him. Sometimes I didn't notice at all. Egg retrieval day. Mild sedation, they said. Quick procedure. I woke groggy, throat dry, body sore in a place you don't want to think about. The nurse smiled gently. We got 8. 8. I nodded politely, as if I understood what 8 meant, as if I wouldn't spend the next 3 days praying that number wouldn't shrink. The embryologist called every morning. Day 1, 6 fertilized. Day 2, 4 progressing normally. Day 3, we'll see tomorrow. I didn't realize it then, but I was being trained. Trained to measure joy in shrinking digits. Trained to believe my worth lived in a laboratory dish that might die while I slept. Transfer day. White sheets, warm socks, a screen showing a tiny flash of light. "That's your embryo," the doctor said brightly, as if naming it made it safe, as if gratitude could make it stick. Ben squeezed my hand. I whispered, "Please stay." The room hummed quietly, the ceiling tiles blurred. I imagined the moment that would change everything. The 2-week wait is a private hell people don't talk about. You are both pregnant and not pregnant. Hope and failure exist in the same breath. You analyze every twinge. You Google every symptom. You stare at your breasts in the mirror and ask, "Do you feel different?" I tested on day 9. I told myself I wouldn't. I told myself blood results were more accurate. But hope is a reckless creature. I peed on the stick at 5:42 a.m. One line. A single, unbothered line. Like the test was saying, "No drama today, just disappointment." I sat on the edge of the bathtub, staring at the tile grout. Not crying, just hollow. Ben found me an hour later. He saw the test beside the sink. He didn't speak. He just sat beside me on the cold floor. 2 people, 1 tiny space. Same grief, different worlds. The clinic called that afternoon. They said it kindly. "Your cycle was unsuccessful." Unsuccessful? Like I'd forgotten to attach a document to an email. I thanked them, hung up politely, stood in the silent kitchen with my phone still in my hand. Then I whispered, "I am running out of time." That night, I did not break down. I made tea, folded laundry, placed the used test gently in the bin like it was fragile. But something inside me shifted. The first IVF failure did not destroy me. It did something much more dangerous. It convinced me that the only way forward was to try again, no matter the cost, no matter the toll. Because failure, I decided, was not a stop sign. It was proof I was already late. And late people don't stop. They run harder,
The second IVF
even when the
cycle
road
felt
is
different.
Not better, just heavier. The first time I still had hope. This time, I only had debt. We signed the consent forms in silence. 12,450 pounds had already vanished. Now another 12,450 pounds would follow it, plus medication, plus scans, plus the cost of pretending I was okay. Ben tried to make jokes in the waiting room. I laughed in the right places. But inside, I was already grieving something that hadn't even happened yet. The injections hurt more this round. Or maybe it was just that my body now understood what they meant. Every needle wasn't just medicine. It was a reminder that I was failing, that I was already behind, already late, already in decline. Some nights, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror with my t-shirt pulled up, belly covered in tiny purple bruises, and thought, I am paying money to hurt myself. The scans were worse this time. Dim rooms, cold gel, the nurse listing numbers like quiet losses. 5 follicles on the right, 3 on the left. Responses lower than last round. Lower. That word clung to me like smoke. Egg collection day. Same gown, same room, same ceiling tiles. When I woke up, a different nurse smiled gently and said, "We got 5. 5. Last time we had 8. I nodded, the way people nod when they are pretending not to drown. The embryologist called every morning. Day 1, 4 fertilized. Day 2, 2 are growing normally. Day 3, we hope 1 continues. Hope shrinks quietly. You don't notice until it's smaller than your fist. On day 5, they called. One blastocyst. Just one. A single fragile maybe on which I had placed my entire future. Transfer day smelled like disinfectant and false hope. The doctor smiled at the glowing dot on the ultrasound and said, "There it is, your little embryo," as if I should feel grateful. I held Ben's hand. I whispered, "Please stay." I imagined the heartbeat that did not exist yet. I imagined the nursery that wasn't real. I imagined the life we kept losing before it ever arrived. Then we went home. And we waited. The first wait was full of fantasies. The second wait was full of bargains. If this works, I will never complain. If this works, I will forgive every failure. If this works, I will be enough. 8 days later, I woke up already knowing. There is a kind of silence inside your body when nothing has happened. I took the test anyway. One line. One cold, undisturbed line. No faint shadow. No second chance. Just nothing. I sat on the bathroom floor back against the tub, whispering, "I knew it." Ben found me an hour later. He didn't speak. He sat beside me on the cold tiles and rested his forehead against mine. But I felt it. The shift. The first time, we cried together. This time, we didn't cry at all. We just broke, quietly, in the same room. The clinic called that afternoon. "I'm so sorry," the nurse said. I almost laughed. Sorry costs nothing. IVF costs everything. That night, Ben asked softly, "Maybe we stop?" I stared at him, stunned. Stop? Stopping meant wasted time. Stopping meant admitting I was old. Stopping meant losing the race. "I can't," I whispered. "We have to try again." He looked at me the way someone looks at a house that's still standing, but they can already see the cracks. That night, I opened my laptop and searched IVF success rate after 2 failures. Am I too old at 29? How many rounds until it works? Google stopped being a source of information. It became a prayer ritual, a rosary of fear. I didn't know it then, but IVF failure number 2 was not the end. It was the moment fear became obsession. And obsession
After the
is
second
far
failed
harder
cycle to survive.
Time stopped moving in days and started moving in searches. I measured everything in questions. IVF success rate after 2 failures. Should I change clinics? Is it stupid to try a 3rd round at 29? Every answer was a maybe. Every maybe cost money. I stopped thinking in months and started thinking in cycles. Not summer, not autumn. Just after round 1 and before round 3. Ben would ask, "What do you want to do this weekend?" And my mind translated it into, "How many follicles will I have by then?" He tried to pull me back into normal life. He booked a dinner, suggested a movie, asked if I wanted to go see friends. I always had a reason to say no. Too tired, too bloated, too behind. The real truth was simpler. If it didn't increase my chances of getting pregnant, it felt like a waste of time. Our marriage became a schedule. Phone reminders, ovulation windows, calendar entries marked with discreet hearts that were anything but romantic. We didn't kiss just because. We kissed because my app pinged. Sex became a task on a checklist. I missed us, but I missed the imaginary baby more. One evening, Ben came home to find me at the kitchen table surrounded by notebooks. I had pages of scribbles, clinic names, drug protocols, success stories from strangers on forums, lists of supplements other women swore by. He picked up one of the notebooks. "Emma, what is this?" "Research," I said. He stared at the scribbles, then at me. "It looks like obsession." The word landed like a slap. I opened my mouth to argue and realized I couldn't. Because he was right. I started hiding things from him. Not big things at first, just small purchases, extra supplements, another book, a paid webinar from a fertility mindset coach who promised to help me attract my baby. I deleted emails and cleared my browser history so he wouldn't see how much money I was quietly pouring into desperation. The clinic bills were already heavy. I didn't want him to see how much heavier I was making them. I lived in two worlds. In one, I went to work, answered emails, smiled at colleagues. In the other, I refreshed forums, compared progesterone stories, and read testimonials from women who got pregnant after one last try. I clung to those stories like life rafts. If it worked for her, maybe it would work for me. If she got pregnant after round 3, maybe round 3 would be my miracle. Ben started going to bed before me. He said he was tired. Maybe he was. I stayed up late, the blue glow of my laptop painting the room in insomnia. Sometimes he would wake at 2 a.m. and see my side of the bed empty. He'd find me on the sofa, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the same sentence. Women over 35 are more likely to struggle. I wasn't 35. I wasn't even 30. But my brain translated everything as, "You are already late. You are already failing. You are already on the edge." One night, he closed the laptop gently and sat opposite me. "Emma, look at me." I kept my eyes on my hands. "Please," he said. I looked up. "You're disappearing," he whispered. I wanted to tell him I was right here, but I wasn't. I was in some future disaster where I turned 40 and everyone said, "Why did you wait so long?" "I'm trying to fix it," I said. He exhaled a painful sound. "Fix what?" I almost said, "me." Instead, I whispered, "Our chances." We stopped talking about anything that wasn't fertility. We avoided certain friends. We avoided certain topics. We avoided each other's eyes when another pregnancy announcement appeared on a screen. Some days he still tried to joke. "Well, at least we're getting a lot of practice," he said once, kissing my neck. I froze, because to me, it wasn't practice. It was performance. If it didn't result in 2 lines on a stick, it felt like failure. He pulled back. "Do you even want me?" he asked quietly, "or just what I can give you?" I wanted to say both, but the pause before I answered said everything. I caught my reflection in a shop window one afternoon. I expected tiredness. Instead, I saw someone I hardly recognized. Eyes ringed with shadows, jaw clenched, shoulders tight. I didn't look old. I looked haunted. That night, I typed a different question into Google. Not about IVF, not about embryos. How do I know if I am losing myself? Google had no useful answers, but the question was the answer. Because deep down, I already knew. I was losing myself, and I was willing to keep losing pieces as long as I didn't lose the baby that only existed in my imagination. Not because I told her anything, but because obsession has a scent. You can hide the receipts, you can hide the searches, but you can't hide the way you talk like the world is ending. She came to visit on a Sunday. I almost canceled. I didn't want anyone in the house. Not when I had 6 tabs open about stimulation protocols and 2 tabs about acupuncture success rates. But she insisted. Sisters do that. She walked in, hugged me, stepped back, and stared. "You've lost weight." "It's just the meds," I said, too quickly. She frowned. "Meds don't hollow someone out." She followed me into the kitchen. On the counter were 3 boxes of supplements, 2 hormone syringes, and a printed sheet that read, "Optimizing your IVF response," a 12-point checklist. She picked it up slowly. "Emma? What is happening?" I smiled the way people do when they're not fine. "It's okay. It's just temporary. Round 3 will work." She didn't smile back. "You said that about round 2. I made tea just to have something to do with my hands. She watched me, silent. Then she said quietly, "You look like someone in a bad marriage who's trying to convince herself she's happy." Something inside me flinched. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you look like a woman being hurt, over and over," she said softly, "and calling it hope." We sat at the table. I expected advice. Instead, she asked a single question. "What did your doctor say after the second failure?" I blinked. I realized I didn't know. I knew the embryo count, I knew the hormone levels, but I didn't remember a single personalized explanation. I remembered being told, "Sorry." I remembered signing another consent form, but I could not remember anyone telling me why it failed. My sister saw the confusion move across my face. "You don't know, do you?" I guess I didn't ask." "No," she said gently. "You did ask. They just didn't answer." She opened her laptop, typed, "Second opinion fertility specialist." Dozens of names appeared. I stared at the screen as if it were forbidden. "I can't switch doctors," I whispered. "That's wasted time." She turned the laptop toward me. "Doing the same thing over and over while your body gets weaker. That is wasted time." I felt something rise in my chest. Anger. Not at her, at myself, at the clinic, at the quiet way I had accepted everything, like a guilty child being scolded. My sister leaned forward. "Emma, you are 29. You are not dying. You are not out of time. You are in a trap built out of fear someone else gave you." I stared at her. She didn't look dramatic. She wasn't shouting. She said it like a fact. And hearing it as a fact broke something open inside me. The next morning, she drove me to a different clinic. Not fancy, not polished. A small gray door. A waiting room that smelled like real coffee, not disinfectant. A doctor who looked me in the eyes instead of at a chart. He asked questions no one had asked before. "How regular are your cycles? How long did you try naturally before IVF? Has your partner had a semen analysis?" I froze. "No," I whispered. "They said it wasn't necessary yet." He leaned back in his chair. "That is alarming." Alarming. Not unfortunate. Not "we'll keep trying." Alarming. He ordered a full set of blood tests for Ben, hormones, motility, fragmentation. He looked at me gently and said, "Nothing in your file suggests you are too old. Your ovarian reserve is normal. Your hormone levels are normal. I almost laughed. Normal, a word I hadn't heard in a year. He continued, your IVF cycles failed very early. That usually points to sperm quality, not egg age. I felt my breath catch. Sperm. Not me. Not my age. Not my timeline. A whole year of panic and needles and debt, and no one had checked the one variable that did not belong to me. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, stunned and silent, with one thought echoing louder than anything. What if I was never broken? We drove home in silence. My sister finally spoke. They made you believe you were failing, not because it was true, because it was easy. I pressed my forehead against the car window. Outside, pedestrians walked in the cold January light. People with ordinary lives. People who never once wondered whether their body was expiring at 29. That night, when Ben came home, I handed him the lab form. He stared at it. Results came back 4 days later. What's this? I didn't pace. I didn't panic. I just sat at the kitchen table, staring at a mug of cold tea as if it could tell my future. Ben walked in holding the envelope. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. There is a silence men make when their certainty has collapsed. He sat across from me, hands flat on the table, the envelope between us. Do you want to open it? He asked. I shook my head. Read it. He unfolded the paper slowly, the way people unwrap something fragile. One breath, then another. Sperm motility significantly below normal range. There it was. Not poetic, not dramatic, just clinical truth. Something that could have been discovered a year ago. Something no one bothered to test. Something I had blamed myself for every single day. Ben swallowed. I didn't know. I know, I whispered. This is my fault, he said. No, I said gently. It's not your fault. But inside, a second voice whispered, it's just not mine either. The new doctor called that afternoon. This is a mild male factor diagnosis, very treatable. Supplements, lifestyle changes, many couples conceive naturally once it's addressed. I stood there holding the phone as the room tilted. Treatable, 3 to 6 months. After everything. After 2 IVF cycles. After needles. After bruises. After money I didn't have. He continued, I cannot explain why your previous clinic did not test him first. It is standard. Standard. Nothing about this year had been standard. I went to the bathroom, not to cry, to breathe, to stand in front of the mirror and look at myself. Truly look, maybe for the first time in months. I did not see an expiring woman. I saw someone who had been lied to. Memories flashed, whispered phone calls, needles in my stomach, Google searches at 3 a.m., the word old ringing in my skull. All of it built on one sentence. You've left it late. What if that sentence had been wrong? What if it was never my age? What if every bruise, every bill, every breakdown was for a problem that wasn't even mine? I didn't collapse. I burned. Not loudly. Quiet rage. The most dangerous kind. I told my sister first. She didn't gasp. She didn't ask for numbers or charts. She just said, I am so sorry you were made to hate your own body for something it didn't do. That sentence broke me open, because that's what had happened. I hadn't just been scared. I had been taught to be ashamed of a body that wasn't even failing. That evening, Ben tried to apologize again. He looked wrecked, eyes red, voice small. "Are you angry at me?" I searched myself carefully. I wasn't. I was angry at every clinic that blames women first and checks men later. Angry that I injected hormones into my stomach, while he never even had a blood test. Angry that no one, not one single doctor, had said, "It might not be you." We lay in bed that night, side by side, barely touching. Not cold, just stunned. The foundation of our nightmare had shifted. The story we built our fear on wasn't real. We hadn't failed IVF because I was old. We had failed because no one asked the right question. The next morning, Ben ordered supplements. He stopped drinking. He set alarms for vitamins. He Googled sperm health the way I once Googled ovarian decline. Watching him enter my world was strange. He finally understood the language of panic. He finally felt what I had been drowning in for a year. And for the first time, I wasn't alone inside the fear. That evening, wrapped in a blanket on the sofa, I whispered out loud, "I was never too old." It felt unreal, like saying a spell backwards to break a curse. Ben sat beside me. "I'm not giving up," he said quietly. I nodded. "Neither am I." But now, the fight felt different. No longer a frantic race against time. Just two people finally facing the right enemy. Misinformation, neglect, a medical system that blames women by default. I did not know what would happen next, but for the first time in a long time, I wasn't fighting my body.
I didn't confront the old
I was
clinic
fighting
right away.
for it.
It wasn't courage I lacked. It was language. After everything I'd been through, I no longer knew how to speak without apologizing first. But once the truth settled in my bones, something changed. I wasn't confused anymore. I was angry. Quiet, righteous, ice-cold, angry. I emailed first, a polite message. 2 failed IVF cycles. No semen analysis performed. New clinic identified male factor infertility. Please explain. They replied 1 hour later. We followed appropriate age-based protocol. Age-based protocol. Not medical protocol. Not evidence-based protocol. Age. Mine. That sentence was gasoline. I booked an in-person review appointment. Not because I needed answers, because I needed to look someone in the eye when they tried to justify what they did. The waiting room was unchanged. Same white walls, same framed photos of smiling IVF babies. The marketing version of hope. But now I saw something else, a subtle pattern. Every poster said the same thing in different words. Time is running out. Don't wait. Your fertility declines every month. No poster said, half of infertility cases involve male factors. Not one. The doctor walked in. Same sharp bob haircut, same glasses. Same tone I remembered from the very first consultation. "So, Emma, I understand you have concerns." I stared at her. "Why didn't you test my husband?" She smiled gently, that fake, weaponized calm. "At your age, egg quality is the highest priority." "At 29, I said. She blinked. I didn't. "You made me believe I was failing. You rushed me into 25,000 pounds of treatment without checking the simplest variable." She inhaled. "Most patients prefer not to waste time." There it was, the word again. Time. The invisible stick used to beat every woman into submission. I leaned forward. I wasn't running out of time. You were running out of ways to bill me. Her eyes flickered. Not guilt. Offense. Like I had broken the rules of polite suffering. The meeting ended with a brochure and a rehearsed smile. We wish you the best on your journey. Journey. That word made my skin crawl. That night, I typed 6 words into Google. Doctor said I was too old. Enter. Thousands of results. Forums, Facebook posts, Reddit threads, TikToks. Women aged 27, 28, 30, 31, all told the same sentence. You've left it late. Most were then sold IVF packages. Many never conceived. Some later discovered male factor issues. Some discovered thyroid issues. Some discovered nothing was wrong with them at all. I wasn't a tragic anomaly. I was a business model. I joined a private support group. Women posted screenshots of clinic messages, invoices, hormone charts. Every story seemed different. Every story was the same. A woman walks in. A doctor tells her she is already too old. She panics. She pays. She breaks. One post said, I was 26, and they still said I was not young. I felt something inside me shift again. Not grief, not rage. Direction. I opened a new document on my laptop. Title, Things I Wish Someone Told Me Before IVF. I started writing, not to be inspirational, to bear witness. My hands shook, but I didn't stop. I wrote about shame. I wrote about silence. I wrote about the bruise I apologized for while no one apologized to me. Ben came into the room, leaned against the doorframe. What are you doing? Telling the truth, I said. He nodded once. No defensiveness, no excuses. Just a man finally standing beside the right battle. When I finished writing, I sat back and whispered, I wasn't broken. For the first time in a year, the sentence didn't feel like defiance. It felt like freedom. There is a moment every woman in a rigged system eventually reaches. A decision. Stay silent and survive quietly. Or speak and become dangerous. I chose dangerous. And that choice was the first moment. Not quickly, not dramatically, just slowly enough that I almost didn't notice I was healing. Ben took his supplements every day, not because I reminded him, because he set the alarms. He tracked the numbers. He read the research, the way I once had. Our roles didn't reverse. They finally balanced. He stopped drinking, started running, took cold showers every morning for circulation. I watched him rebuild himself in quiet ways. No grand speeches, no dramatic apologies, just consistent effort. It was the first time in a year that I felt like I didn't carry the whole weight alone. Our marriage changed in small details first. We started having conversations not about hormones or timing, but books, podcasts, stupid memes we sent each other during the day. We laughed again. Not big cinematic laughter, just those small accidental smiles that mean, I like you, still, after all of this. I stopped tracking every symptom, stopped carrying my phone like a prayer talisman, stopped living inside the countdown clock. Sometimes I forgot what cycle day it was. The old me would have panicked. The new me whispered, my body is not a machine. It is a home. One afternoon, I realized something strange. I had gone 3 months without crying in a bathroom. It felt like a milestone no one celebrates, but it mattered more than any test result ever had. Then, one morning, I woke up different, not glowing, not sick, just aware of my own body in a way that didn't feel like fear. A flutter low in my stomach, a strange heaviness in my chest. Not panic, recognition. I waited 3 days, not because I was brave, because I was scared of being wrong again. On day 3, at 6:14 a.m., I walked into the bathroom alone. No ceremony, no whispered bargains, just me and a test. 3 minutes, a lifetime. I turned it over. 2 lines. Not faint, not questionable. 2 perfect, undeniable lines. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. Then I laughed. Not a pretty movie laugh, a broken, shocked, slightly hysterical laugh that sounded like, "Oh my God, after everything." I sat on the bathroom floor. Same tiles, same cold porcelain tub against my back. But this time, I wasn't grieving. I was overflowing. Ben woke to the sound, came to the doorway, saw the test in my hand. He didn't speak, just covered his mouth with his hands as his eyes filled instantly. He sank to the floor in front of me. We held each other, laughing and crying at the same time. The first IVF cycle, we cried together. The second cycle, we didn't cry at all. This time, we didn't break. We came back together. I emailed the new doctor. He replied within minutes. "Congratulations. I am not surprised. The improvements were clear in his last results." No fanfare, no bragging, just truth. Truth I had begged for a year earlier. That night, I stood alone in the mirror again. Same reflection, different meaning. "My body didn't fail," I whispered. It had waited, patiently, through needles, through debt, through shame that was never mine to carry. It had waited for the truth to catch up. People talk about miracle pregnancies. This wasn't one. There was no miracle. There was just accuracy, correct information, correct diagnosis, the thing I had needed all along. We didn't tell anyone for weeks, not out of fear of losing it, out of reverence. For once, the story was ours, not for doctors, not for clinics, not for anyone's timeline but our own. Some mornings I still woke up expecting panic, but instead I felt something unfamiliar, quiet safety. No countdown, no rush, just a slow, unfolding peace. I wasn't too late. I had never been too late. I was simply misled. And now, People think the hardest part of infertility is the waiting, the months, the cycles, the negative tests. But for me, the hardest part was the story I told myself while I waited. That I was behind, that I was broken, that every woman pushing a stroller had something I never would. No one tells you that infertility isn't just a medical experience. It's an identity crisis, a slow unraveling of who you thought you were and who you imagined you'd become. You don't just grieve a baby, you grieve the version of yourself who believed it would be simple. I used to wake every morning and instantly calculate dates. How many days past ovulation? What cycle day am I on? Should I feel something by now? My phone wasn't a device. It was a scoreboard for hope. Even now, pregnant and finally breathing again, I sometimes look back and wonder how much of that pain was real and how much was manufactured by a system that benefits when women feel defective. I look at my body now with something like awe, not because it's pregnant, but because it survived a full year of being spoken to like it was failing. It carried me through needles and debt and shame that was never mine to carry. It never quit on me. even when I abandoned it emotionally. I used to replay the doctor's words at night. "You've left it late." That sentence lived under my skin. It didn't just haunt me, it shaped my behavior. I built my schedule around panic. I rearranged work. I skipped events. I measured my life in blood tests and hormone numbers. And none of it was based on truth. Because the truth is, I wasn't late. I was misled. They didn't check him. They didn't question themselves. They didn't treat me like a person, just a statistic with a credit card. They looked at my date of birth and decided I must be the problem. I think about the girl I was a year ago, sitting on cold bathroom tiles with a negative test in her hand, trying to cry quietly so no one would hear her breaking. I want to kneel beside her and say, "It's not your fault. You are not too old. You are not failing. They just didn't look in the right place." No one warns you that time becomes an enemy. Every birthday becomes a threat. Every baby shower is a test of emotional endurance. Every doctor's waiting room feels like a judgment chamber. And the world keeps telling you, just relax. Stop stressing. Stay positive. As if anxiety is the cause, not the symptom, of being dismissed, blamed, and rushed into treatments you may not have needed. And if you're in this storm right now, feeling like everyone else is moving forward without you, I made something for you. A small guide. 7 things I wish someone had told me about ovulation, before the needles, before the panic, before I ever blamed myself. You can download it free at www.theinfertilitysecrets.com. No spam, no miracle promises, just the truth I needed years ago. I won't pretend everything is healed. I still flinch at pregnancy announcements. I still hesitate before opening clinic emails. But now I know something I didn't know then. My worth was never tied to my womb, not to a hormone number, not to a timeline someone else invented, not to a doctor's face as she searched for a way to blame me. I used to whisper apologies to my body. Now I whisper gratitude for surviving the shame, for holding me upright when I thought I was collapsing, for waiting silently while I believed lies about it. This pregnancy is not proof that I fixed myself. It is proof that I was never broken. My body did not fail. The system failed me. I carried that weight for a year. I refused to carry it anymore. I was 29 when they told me I was too late. I was 30 when I proved them wrong.